Before I start, I just want to say that it feels like such a blessing to be in this community, to be part of this community that does such a beautiful job acknowledging both the smachot, the happy times, and also the hard times in life. And I just want to take a moment to really, really appreciate that. So blessed and happy to be with you all for this Shabbat. I'm going to speak about Parshat Toldot, but first I would like to tell you about my favorite TV show that's currently on the air. So my favorite TV show is the reality show Survivor. Hopefully some nods of recognition. Yes, exactly. So yes, it's that old show from 2000 where people have to outlast each other while living on an island and trying to survive both physically and socially. And there's a new season this fall. And last week, the show did something that they've never done before. They had the contestants run a challenge in 2 teams. One team won and was able to go enjoy a feast, their first food since arriving on the island. And the other team, and they also won immunity from being voted off. That's very important in the game. I'm happy to speak about it with anybody after Shabbat services. And the other team got nothing. However, they then sent a separate contestant to an island to make a decision. And the decision was they had the power to reverse the outcome of the challenge. So they presented her with an hourglass, and they said that if she smashed the hourglass, then the team that just won is now the losers, and the team that didn't win are now the winners, and they are immune from getting voted out of the game. So as a friend of mine said after watching the episode, the decision seemed to be, do you want to do nothing and have everything stay exactly the same, or do you want to break the hourglass and get everything you want? Do nothing or smash something. It might sound like a ridiculous reality TV bit, but I think it actually represents our own lives pretty well. So often, we are presented with a decision point, and it boils down to, do you want to keep things the way they are, or do you want to break something open and step into a new timeline? Signing on to a new job, taking on a new title, revealing your feelings for someone in a new relationship, deciding to move cross-country, signing your name to a petition or a potentially provocative letter. There is comfort and security in staying where you are, but there can also be freedom and opportunity on the other side. I want to be clear, there is often no right answer here. Each is a path with its own possibilities and hardships. Neither is without risk or reward. There is also no correct timeline. Sometimes this process can take a very long time. However, there comes a point where you need to ask yourself, do you want to smash the hourglass? Adrienne Rich describes this more eloquently in her poem titled, "Prospective Immigrants, Please Take Note." She writes, "Either you will go through this door or you will not go through. If you go through, there is always the risk of remembering your name. Things look at you doubly and you must look back and let them happen. If you do not go through, it is possible to live worthily, to maintain your attitudes, to hold your position, to die bravely. But much will blind you. Much will evade you. At what cost, who knows? The door itself makes no promises. It is only a door." Smashing through a wall to create a door is typically much harder than just waiting for someone to open the door and let you in. But I speak for myself and say, sometimes that waiting is just as hard, if not harder. And so, either to my detriment or my benefit, I often choose to smash the hourglass. And spoiler alert, so does the contestant on Survivor. This week finds Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, in a similar inflection point. Rivka sets up an elaborate ruse for him to trick his father into giving him Esau's blessing. Jacob has the option to go through with his mother's plan of deceit and in return can become the patriarch of the Jewish people, rewarded with abundance and blessing, or he can choose to keep things the way they are and not upend tradition. If he goes through with it, like in the Adrienne Rich poem, there is the risk, and actually, as we know, the guarantee of history remembering his name. If he doesn't go through with it, he may continue to live a simple life as an ish tam. But again, in looking to Rich's words, he may find that history has evaded him. So, does he want to smash the hourglass? The modern Torah commentator Aviva Zornberg points out that from the beginning of his life, Jacob is most often characterized by what he does not do rather than what he does. The text says Esau was a man of the field. He would go out and hunt and bring back game. Jacob, by contrast, sits at home in the tents. Esau is described as ruddy and hairy. Jacob is instead characterized not by his appearance, but rather by his lack of similarity to Esau. Where Esau is hairy, Jacob is smooth. If one were to bet based on previous knowledge, it is likely you would bet on Jacob not going through with his mother's plan and staying inside his shell instead. However, much like my own Yetzer, Jacob has been endowed with the spirit of running and fighting from the beginning of his life. When the text says Rivka is pregnant with 2 nations in her womb, and they are battling. And the Hebrew word here is yitrotzitzu. The word yitrotzitzu comes from the root word roots, which means in Hebrew to run. Both babies are running towards their fates, and this is Jacob's moment to run towards his. He chooses to go through with it, and once he does, there is no turning back. There is a midrash that describes this moment of Jacob becoming someone new, both externally in the sense that he impersonates Esau, but also internally, becoming a new man, stepping into his power. The midrash says, when Jacob left his father's presence with the blessing that was meant to be Esau's, he was adorned like a bridegroom and like a bride. Reviving dew rained down on him, fat covered his bones, and he became a champion fighter and athlete. Aviva Zornberg says he leaves with a radiant awareness of new possibilities that spring from deep within the self. I think smashing our way through something does not always feel very good. It is not comfortable. It is hard to break with tradition. It is hard to do something unexpected of you. It is hard to be vulnerable and to say what it is you want, and then also to be brave enough to go after it. However, this radical transformation of Jacob from a simple man who stays in the comfort of the tent to a man who is suddenly a powerful force who must now break out from his parents' home is a powerful description of what it can look like to break the hourglasses of our own lives. Breaking through the old and entrenched ways of our being might require envisioning ourselves as entirely new people, ones who can use our voice when we are used to being silent, or as ones who can leave home when we are used to staying. It often means looking at the status quo and deciding it must change. It often means confronting the shame we carry inside of ourselves and looking it in the eye, reminding ourselves that we are worthy of what we desire, of what we dream about. The risk of staying silent or staying the same suddenly outweighs the risk of speaking out. Breaking something open inside of ourselves can lead to frissions and cracks, which we see with Jacob and Esau as well, and that terrifying feeling of being known. But if we choose to do it, if we choose to say yes to smashing whatever door was closed to us before, it can, as in the case of Jacob, lead to radiance and revival. But after all, the door is only a door. We can only listen to the still, small voice inside ourselves and ask, is it worth it to walk through? Shabbat Shalom.